Conjured from the fiery depths of the underworld, the Raider Klan were an iconic group of outcasts who unexpectedly foreshadowed the style and aesthetic of future mainstream rappers to come. I've actually already covered one of its members, Denzel Curry, in a Taboo analysis over 3 episodes before, if that might interest you. Their image, born from years of listening to artists like 3 6 Mafia, Project Pat, and Bone Thugs and Harmony, was perversely rebellious and infectiously antagonistic. Together, the Raider Klan successfully found a bridge between old and new, honing in on a musical style that hadn't been established in mainstream rap music since the days of Michael Watts tapes. As rap was searching for its next identity, Spaceghostpurrp and company found a more rugged and lo-fi niche without the help of any mainstream label. As YouTube and SoundCloud began its rise to prominence in the late 2000s, early 2010s, Miami-Dade County resident Spaceghostpurrp saw an opportunity to record music that was foreign to the radio at the time, but wholly personal to his aesthetic as a developing artist. As the preceding bling era was fading into the abyss, Spaceghostpurrp was rising from it, searching for the darker side of musical soundscapes. He started out as someone who was heavily involved in the black skate community around the area, which inherently gave him an outcast label. As a young adolescent, Purrp began listening to 3 6 Mafia's Mystic Styles tapes, a decision that would later affect his coarse-grained approach to rapping and producing. According to his cousin Gaddafi and former manager of Raider Klan, Purrp's esoteric music tastes can be credited to close family ties with his older cousin Mike, since Gaddafi's grandmother essentially raised a lot of Purrp's family members in one house, a majority of them being musicians themselves. Our musical rapport was able to be built early on, and a studio was set up in one of the bedrooms, and Purrp began writing rhymes in the late 2000s. The group as a whole, while scattered, consisted of artists from different parts of the country. This, as a result, led to a vast representation of different styles, aesthetics, and influences. Prior to Raider Klan's formation, the underground felt almost lavish in comparison, as rappers like Wiz Khalifa and Currency developed their high life ethos by creating their own cult followings of Jet Life and Taylor Gang. After 4 years of mixtapes on Pittsburgh-based label Rostrum Records, Wiz started to pursue a major label debut himself, sometime after Cushion OJ, which was coincidentally right around the time Raider Klan began to build countrywide steam. Much like his Taylor Gang contemporaries, Spaceghostpurrp wanted to establish his own team like Aurora, even if it came from a more sinister premise. He would find inspiration in cultish symbols and borderline satanic imagery. His designs would purposely represent different perspectives and meanings. A's and O's turned into X's and V's when it came to the spelling of individual album titles and group monikers. For example, 275 became an important number for the group. If you look at a cell phone, 275 also means BRK, which stands for Blackland Raider Klan. Blackland refers to Spaceghostpurrp's classic 2011 mixtape Blackland Radio 66.6, which is a project we'll discuss in a moment. And according to an interview with Complex, Raider Klan officially started in 2008 when Purrp and his cousins Dodo and Daffy would begin making music together. And this is where he was able to develop the mindset of a raider, which he would later rap about on Wrath of a Raider in 2011, which to him is someone who's been lied to, cheated on, hurt and taken advantage of, misunderstood and mistreated. As this person gets older though, this person acquires a black heart and all they know is darkness. And this is a theme that's fully explored in a majority of Raider Klan members, whether from Houston's Amber London or Florida natives Denzel Curry and Young Simi. Purrp differentiated himself from his contemporaries by utilizing GarageBand to the fullest of his capabilities. He's essentially the heart and soul of Raider Klan. While other rappers and producers were preoccupied with the super popular Logic Pro program, Purrp wanted to emanate a more distorted sound that didn't fit the cleanliness of a typical studio mix. This decision alone inspired groups of artists across the country who maybe couldn't afford the studio time or major label resources. Purrp believed that music can sound fresh and stylish without feeling totally sterile. Now, Purrp's first notable mixtape as a rapper and producer was 2010's NASA the Mixtape. The swift-moving project established Purrp's iconic technique to music making, whether it be the droning production, random pinball samples, or hedonistic storytelling. The sounds on this particular mixtape, while murky in their own warped universe, felt almost separate from the straightforward filthiness that would immediately follow in his discography. He sounded like an extension of Currency, laid back and wholly content with life's incessant riches. Never is this more apparent than on the song I Love Lean. Either way, the project generated enough internet buzz for Purrp to continue his pursuit of dominance in the underground. Purrp's following project, 2011's Blackland Radio 66.6, would officially put Raider Klan in position for success. This is the time period where the group's leader would finally formulate an indulgent niche filled with purposeful shock value and dim mythologies. The album simultaneously captured Raider Klan's vision as a collective and Purrp's temperament as a blunt antagonist and a boisterous deviant. Embedded within the underworld were tiny seedlings that would forever make Raider Klan an anti-establishment entity. One of his diss tracks felt like an attack on Wiz's crew at face value, but in all reality, Purrp was just trying to authorize the clan as a formidable force in the underbelly of the industry. In a nutshell, the horrorcore screams and Lord Infamous-like flow represented a majority of the album's tone. Get Your Head, Busts, Whispered Threats functioned in a similar 3-6 Mafia vein, while the Like a Stripper highlighted Purrp's violent tendencies across a rumbling bass and menacing keys. Widely known as the best Raider Klan project, Blackland Radio 66.6 garnered widespread acclaim from critics and artists throughout the hip-hop industry, particularly ASAP Mob, who Purrp would eventually beef with due to creative similarities in style, something that's evident in the way old ASAP wore their clothes in videos, and they also wore a darker aesthetic compared to their present. Much of Memphis's resurgence in the rap game can also be linked to Blackland and Purrp's insistence on unleashing an alternative landscape in hip-hop. There's been a greater appreciation for that region of the United States, which can easily be seen in the maniacal shock value of Suicide Boys, the crunk resurgence found in Duke Deuce's music, and Blockboy JB's trend-setting dance moves. It also resurrected a stout combination of DJ Screw's leaned-out production and Lord Infamous's restrained menace. Now, Purrp would release a variety of EPs and full-length projects after Blackland Radio 66.6. His debut studio album, Mysterious Funk: The Chronicles of Spaceghostpurrp, was most notable for rehashing older tracks from Blackland and 2012's God of Black EP. The result was a body of work that felt more sterile in comparison to the albums and EPs that preceded it, but at the same time, it was the only project of his that was initially released on places like Apple Music and Spotify, which only confirms its attempt at a mainstream crossover. Black Man's Wealth was another project that did an excellent job of implementing Florida's new age sound through ear-splitting alarms, weed-filled expeditions, and strip club-like anthems, with BMW and strip clubs still sticking. Purrp's influence reaches beyond his own bodies of work too. Outside of the countless underground mixtapes over the past decade, the Dade County legend also produced for Wiz Khalifa, Freddie Gibbs, early Lil Uzi Vert, ASAP Rocky, and a good amount of other Raider Klan projects. Despite his obvious influence on other contemporary acts, Purrp's popularity in the industry started to wane after newer artists like Lil Yachty and XXXTentacion started to get involved with Purrp and ASAP. In a No Jumper interview back in 2016, Yachty said Purrp offered him beats for an upcoming project. Initially, Yachty was excited due to Purrp's long-standing underground impact, but after Yachty started to become close with guys like ASAP Barry and Rocky though, Purrp's relationship with him disintegrated, thus magnifying the feud between Purrp and the entire ASAP mob. The battle with ASAP mob would culminate in a series of tweets in early 2020 where Purrp essentially exposes Rocky for being homosexual. Purrp claims that the origin of the feud was due to the fact that he once saw Rocky in a questionable video. And while Purrp claims that he personally has nothing wrong with Rocky's apparent sexuality, he does believe that's what's led to a long-standing battle of stylistic identity. Now, while a lot of people consider Purrp's Mysterious Funk to be the peak of Raider Klan's capabilities, it was 2012's Black Man's Wealth where the group felt the most fully formed, especially since Purrp invited the majority of the clan's core members, whether they be Nell, Young Simi, Chris Travis and Xavier Wolf. According to Purrp and fellow Dade County artist Denzel Curry, Raider Klan extended to places like Houston, Seattle and even California at their peak powers. At one point, Purrp lists Kenyatta, Rel, Young Renegade, Curry, Young Simi, Wolf, Travis, Houston's Amber London, Ashton Matthews and even Vince Staples as members of the Raider Clan at one point or another. The reason for this widespread cultish energy is mainly due to the Tumblr era's ability to evoke moods of nostalgia, particularly for 90s rap. Hip-hop in general had become a veteran art form at this point in time. The genre had a long enough tenure for newer artists to pay homage to some of their past favourites. Artists like Kenyatta were able to find Purrp's Raider commandments in Tumblr. This is how a community was built during that time period. Artists were coming together based on similar music interests. The Raider Clan were the epitome of this trend. Now, most members stuck to the classic Southern blueprint of pimping, smoking, and violence that made classic Southern acts so noticeable in the first place. Denzel Curry, however, even in his early music, took a more socially conscious lean in his music, particularly on songs like the title track of one of his first mixtapes, Strictly for My Raiders. On this song, Curry wants people to focus their attention on crooked cops and social injustice in general. This conceptual, almost revolutionary approach to music is something fans would see much more on commercial albums like N64 and Taboo. Now, it's virtually impossible to nitpick and analyze every Raider Klan album, especially considering how vast the group truly was. However, it is also impossible to not see the influence of Lord Infamous and DJ Screw in Purrp's music, 8-Ball and MJG's wary caution in Curry's music, and UGK's melodic inflections and funky bass lines in London and Wolf's music. Songs like Trillination and Blunts on My Mind only exemplified a balance between ruggedly threatening and being ponderously laid back. Some fan favourites from the rest of Raider Clan include Wolf's The Wolfgang Rudolph, Curry's Strictly for My Raiders, London's historically proficient EP 1994, which has an awesome ode to DJ Screw on the Dat Piff version, and Kenyatta's Too Funky. For those looking for a more comprehensive list of great projects from Raider Clan, as well as a compilation of long lost songs, please visit this website called Passion of the Weiss. Andrew Matson, a writer from the Magnificent Rap blog, invited Raider Clan members to give the history of their existence. The article is the basis for a lot of reporting in this video. Now, despite the many conflicts Purrp encountered over the years, particularly with the ASAP mob, it's his lasting musical impact that continues to be felt throughout the mainstream. From XXXTentacion's edgy shock value to Suicide Boys' vintage Memphis horrorcore to Odd Future's quirky outcast image to even more recently Anti-World's, Ghosty being the most popular rapper from them, infatuation with feedback and distortion. Heck, even ASAP's Vlone brand is heavily influenced by Raider Klan. Collectives like Suicide Boys and Odd Future explicitly proclaimed their affinity for Raider Klan's music early on, and the growing popularity of Tumblr and YouTube during that period has a lot to do with that as well. And as for the clan themselves, many of them have settled into comfortable obscurity. Curry's experienced the most mainstream success, of course, quickly becoming a multi-dimensional storyteller who was featured on the 2016 XXL Freshman list. He's also been in large magazines like Revolver and has even been included on major video game soundtracks like Madden and NBA 2K. Wolf, meanwhile, has been noticeably quiet, though he did just release a song with Flint upstart RMC Mike. London's been generally non-existent too since her huge hit Low MF Key. She also recently released a single titled Last Night Out, a woozy trap banger that offers very little in the way of noticeable progression. Kenyatta is a part of a new group called Cyanide Syndicate with Nacho Picasso and Keyboard Kid. Purrp has joined other SoundCloud legends like Wi-Fi God, Black Cray, and Working on Dying to make blissfully anarchic music. Puya, an unofficial member, blends Nyatta's West Coast flavor with Curry's manic flows. And of course, South Florida's Ronnie J continues to make heavily distorted beats that occasionally pop up on one or two Curry album cuts, PAT off Zoo being a recent example. The Raider Clan's influence is seen everywhere, which inherently makes sense because Raider Klan was indeed everywhere. They were able to catch lightning in a bottle in an era where artists still seemed to control the scope of where rap was going stylistically. They were also willing to embrace certain aspects of the blog era with a confident conviction without ever sacrificing their authenticity. It's too bad their tenure didn't last as long as it should have. The ASAP beat virtually saw no end, and Purrp stopped paying his artists. The Raider Klan was not meant to last long. Now, despite these issues, their spirit and legacy lives on, and as you can see in more recent artists like Zilla Kami and Snot, The former in particular has taken Raider Klan's murky aesthetics to a whole new rap metal direction. His vicious horrorcore screams have caught the attention of Curry, who invited him as a feature on Taboo. They may not completely sound like Raider Klan, but their anti-establishment aura and genre-defining malevolence is wholly reminiscent of that era. And at the end of the day, Purrp and Company found a collective niche that was simultaneously cool and non-conforming. Whether you like it or not, very few have captured that balance since.